We are back on Morning Line. Thanks for joining us. Our guest is Davidson County Sheriff Daron Hall, taking your phone calls, 737-7587. We have some folks who waited through the break, so let's get back to the phone lines. We got Kevin. Good morning, Kevin.
Yes.
Hi,
Morning,
Kevin.
gentlemen.
Good morning.
Good morning.
I understand the sheriff's office gives intoxicated people rides home during the holidays, but if it's just someone who goes to a bar and has one too many beers or too strong a drink and is a little tipsy, but they'll be fine the next morning, they won't have a hangover, they can go to work. Are there any services that tow your car home and you ride in the cab? And if not, is there any law that says the bar won't tow your car if you get it out before a certain time the next morning?
Oh, were you familiar with that? I mean, that's good. Thank you for that.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, Sober Ride's not around. There may be other options, as we said, Lyft and Uber. Now, if you have a vehicle, I guess he's saying, you go ahead and call a tow truck, which I assume you're going to, I think, pay for it. I don't know if there's free services for that, but they'll give you a ride home and take your car home for you.
I think, and I think it's tow and go, maybe AAA. There's some
okay, maybe there is one, and if there is, you guys call and correct us.
Yeah.
But that's a good option, because yeah, sometimes you leave your car in an area overnight and it ends up being in a zone where you're not supposed to be parked, and then they tow it, and then that's a lot more money because it's locked up in some lot.
It's funny, a few years after I got out of college, I had some roommates, and they went, I think, living in Cincinnati somewhere during the time. But anyway, it's been 25 years ago when they were telling me a story that there was a business starting up in Cincinnati in a local bar or restaurant place where you're sitting here and having food and drinks or whatever, and you're ready to go home. And what they would do is, it basically was a fold-up moped. And so what they would do is they would bill your credit card on your meal, if you're willing to do this is what you would do, and I would take you home. So what I would do is I'd go get in your car, I'd put the fold-up thing in the trunk, I would drive your car to your house, park it, hand you your keys, you go in and go to sleep, I get the moped out and drive back to the bar. And they would do that. So it was a very smart way of getting
that
the
with the bird
home.
scooter or
I
something
thought about that too,
now,
get the scooter home, yeah.
That's actually pretty darn clever. That would be a cool service for a bar to offer.
That's right. And you bill it through I thought that was really smart. I mean, and I think there was even some guideline where once I served you so many, I wouldn't serve you anymore until you agreed that that's how you would get home, which was a pretty...
hand over your keys, and then I hang on it.
Pretty smart,
Good idea. Keeping the road safer again, though. I'll tell you, that's important. Let's go to Joe. Joe, good morning. I knew you were going to call in this morning.
Did you now?
Oh, yeah. How are you, Joe?
Okay. Doing fine. I just want to have a couple of comments for the sheriff. I couldn't add too much to what Paul's already said, other than what you're looking at as a man sitting there that as an independent thinker. He's not political in any direction directly, so when it comes to something, he makes his own decision about it, and that's good to see in this day and time. And one of the reasons that he's like he is his surroundings. When he was growing up, the people that he grew up around, especially his mother and father.
Yeah.
So, happy holidays to the sheriff and everybody in News Channel 5. And one other question: when is the target date for the jail to be finished?
Yeah. Want to give us an update on that?
Yeah, and I got to thank you, Joe. By the way, my dad is struggling a little bit, and I always think about this story. My dad is 79 this year.
Okay.
And
Durwood Hall.
Durwood Hall. Yeah. And one of the things I always remember, and Joe said this, so I wanted to make mention of it. He was in the city council when I was growing up, a teenager, and it was really more. He was in sales and business, and he wanted to give back at a later stage of life, and that's what he chose to do. He really didn't have aspirations to run in political offices, but he wanted to kind of help back in his community. But anyway, back then, I remember as a teenager, and the local papers would do endorsements or whatever. And you're in a campaign, you're running against someone in the neighborhood, and you're the son of this person. Everything matters. And so I won't ever forget, he got endorsed by one or both of the papers or whatever. And he had been in the office for 4 years. So this is the re-election. And I didn't really understand what was going on, but I won't ever forget what he told me. He said, you see this endorsement right here? And it would say something like, Councilman Durwood Hall needs to be re-elected. We endorse him, whatever, and all these words about different things. And it said, because he is one of the more independent people on the council. And I didn't understand terminology. It didn't matter to me as a teenager, but I remember the word. He said, that's the most important word in the whole thing. And the point is, you know, with all the partisanship that goes on, with all of the issues that are going on in the country, to me, if it's already determined what you're going to think because you are of a party, or I just don't really respect your opinion. I just don't. Because what I'm saying is, that doesn't mean the next thing out of that person's mouth because they're of your party is going to be correct. I run as a Democrat. That's how I feel. But I don't like everything the Democratic Party does. I don't like, we had a mayor here trying to run the sheriff's office. That was a Democratic mayor. I don't like, that's a nonpartisan office, the mayor's office. It needs to be that. Unfortunately, it's becoming more and more partisan. It's designed to be nonpartisan for a reason. And so I just don't like, and like I said a minute ago, you know, the President Trump thing, you know, I didn't agree with what they asked me to do early on. I didn't go over to the White House. Just a few weeks back, just a few weeks ago, there was a bill I'm highly in favor of that they were pushing that has to do with First Step. It helps people re-enter society. It reduces sentences of felony or of federal prisoners who, quite frankly, disproportionately were sentenced because they were black. It was the cocaine mess where cocaine. And so my point is, if it's right, I don't care. And I say right, at least the way that I feel. And I may not be correct, but the voters have a chance to take me out of here. And I just don't, I don't like the way the world, you know, I'm a big sports fan. I go to the ball games. I tell my sons, I tell anybody who goes, don't tell me that only the other team is guilty of penalties. When you watch a game, let's be fair, that wasn't a good call or good play, but people love to view it through one set of lenses.
Oh, I know they do. And so, listen, we got to go to the break, but I mean, I wish there were more politicians, and that's what you are to a degree, because you do have to run like you, but I think the politicians are a reflection of our electorate, which is more polarized than ever before. And they want to hear their politicians saying, I'm this way 100% and I won't budge. The thing about you is I like to think candidates and elected officials like you maybe are more willing to compromise as opposed to saying, you're doing it my way, I promised my electorate I'm going to do it my way, and I ain't budging it a bit. Because then when you go that way, yeah, it sounds good to get elected, but then nothing gets done. We'll take a break on that note. When we come back, a few more phone calls with our guest and more of our conversation right after this.
No child should have to worry if their mom